Leblanc has survived for over 1,000 years by being impossible to find, impossible to trust, and impossible to prove guilty of anything. These 8 champions have specific reasons to end that streak, ranked from the ones who could do it with effort to the one she genuinely cannot trick her way out of. Let's break this down. Rell. She was made for this. The Iron Maiden's entire origin is inseparable from Leblanc's specific cruelty. Rell was identified as a child whose ferromancy magic made her valuable, placed in a Black Rose Academy under the pretense of education, forced to fight other students until they disappeared one by one, and eventually discovered that the magic she had been developing was being systematically drained from her defeated classmates for Leblanc's use. The Black Rose trained Rell as a weapon specifically calibrated for Mordekaiser's eventual return, which tells you something specific about what Leblanc believed Rell was capable of in direct combat. Rell's ferromancy, the ability to manipulate metal at a fundamental level, to magnetize weapons mid-swing, to tear armor from opponents and reshape it as her own, does not care about illusions. The metal she manipulates does not have eyes that clones can deceive. A copy of Leblanc standing next to the real one does not change which one is generating a magnetic signature, and Rell's power works by sensing and controlling physical material rather than by identifying visual targets. Her hatred for Leblanc is the most personal documented in the lore. Not ideological, not political, but the specific fury of someone who was tortured by a person who called it training and then handed her to the world as their most successful product. Leblanc's assessment of Rell as worth raising was correct. The part she miscalculated was what Rell would do with the capability once she understood what the raising had cost. Katarina. She killed inside Leblanc's own event. The Silken Dance, a Black Rose gathering that the lore positioned as one of the Cabal's exclusive internal events, was infiltrated by Katarina, who disguised herself as a Black Rose member, entered the event, assassinated an undisclosed target, and engaged Elise before departing. The specific significance of this is not Katarina's fighting capability in isolation, but what the infiltration demonstrated about the gap between Leblanc's institutional security and what a sufficiently motivated assassin could walk through. Leblanc's power is the manipulation of perception, the clone that makes you attack the wrong target, the teleport that puts her out of reach before the counter-strike lands, the political intelligence that ensures her enemies become each other's problems before they become hers. Katarina's approach to combat does not engage with any of that. She does not need to identify which Leblanc is real at a distance. She closes distance faster than the identification question becomes relevant and resolves the problem with a blade before the illusion has finished deciding which direction to send the clone. The Ducouteau family's loyalty to Swain rather than to Leblanc gave Katarina a factional alignment directly opposed to the Black Rose, which means the Silken Dance infiltration was not an isolated incident but a demonstration of intent. She went inside Leblanc's operation, killed a target, and left. The fact that this was documented rather than concealed suggests Katarina was comfortable with Leblanc knowing it had happened. Swain. He took her power base and has been dismantling her organization from the inside of the throne she put him near. The Noxian Grand General's history with Leblanc is the lore's most complete documentation of what happens when Leblanc's manipulation is applied to someone whose specific capability is reading manipulation in real time. She used him as the instrument that exposed the Black Rose to Darkwill, sacrificing him as cover for her own false death, intending him to be destroyed in Ionia as the final cleanup. Swain survived Ionia. He entered the Immortal Bastion. He emerged with something the Black Rose had spent centuries trying to control access to, the demonic power within the Bastion itself, and used it to overthrow Darkwill and take the throne. Leblanc's plan to install a puppet had produced instead the most dangerous political opponent she had faced since Mordekaiser. Swain's sub-ability to see through a demon's eye, to perceive the intentions beneath the performance, is the specific counter to a champion whose entire survival strategy is making sure no one perceives her real intentions. He has been hunting the Black Rose since taking the throne. He has already removed significant portions of its infrastructure. The lore described him as having obtained Sichun from the Black Rose as a resource, which communicated that the power dynamic between them has shifted from Leblanc managing Swain to Swain managing the fallout of what Leblanc started. Vladimir. He is the person she has been waiting centuries to outlive. Leblanc's relationship with a hemomancer is the lore's longest-running documented patience exercise, a partnership that dated to the foundation of the Black Rose itself, when Leblanc and Vladimir combined their power to defeat Mordekaiser and establish the Cabal on the ruins of his empire. In the centuries since, the relationship had soured to the point where Leblanc was actively waiting for Vladimir to die so she could claim his power for herself. The specific dynamic this created was two allies who both understood the other was a threat, both operating within the same organization, both technically collaborating while each built contingencies against the day the partnership ended. Vladimir is not waiting for Leblanc to die. Vladimir is waiting for Leblanc to make a mistake. His blood magic, the ability to reshape his own body into blood, to drain life force from opponents, to exist in a state that makes conventional physical attacks imprecise targeting problems, does not interact cleanly with illusion-based defenses. Draining life from a clone produces nothing. Draining life from the real Leblanc produces the intended result. A hemomancer, with millennia of experience distinguishing one from the other, has had longer to develop that specific skill than most of Leblanc's other opponents have been alive. He is on this list not because he wants to kill her specifically right now, but because he is the most qualified person in the room when the arrangement eventually breaks down completely. Syndra. She told the aspect of Twilight to leave, and it listened. The Dark Sovereign's relationship to institutional power, whether magical or political, is defined by a single consistent quality. She refuses to be contained by it. When the aspect that had been guiding her development attempted to restrict what she was accessing, Syndra expelled it. When the Masters of Phalor imprisoned her in the dreaming pool to contain what she had become, she eventually broke free. The lore noted that Leblanc had a specific interest in Syndra's prison during the period of her confinement, the Black Rose matron monitoring a power source that she recognized as significant enough to require observation. That specific interest tells you what Leblanc calculated Syndra represented, not a potential ally, not a manageable asset, but a force that warranted sustained attention. Syndra's power operates through sheer telekinetic force, applied at a scale that visual illusions do not address. She moves things with her mind, and the thing she is moving does not have a clone. The specific combination of boundless magical force and zero tolerance for authority produced a champion whose confrontation with Leblanc would not be resolved through the political maneuvering that Leblanc applies to most threats. Syndra has never responded to the suggestion that there are limits on what she is allowed to access by accepting those limits. Leblanc's defenses are built around people accepting the version of reality she presents. Syndra's entire existence is a rejection of that premise. Mordekaiser, he calculated for her betrayal. The Iron Revenant's return to the lore's active threat register has been the organizing anxiety of Leblanc's existence for over 1,000 years. The reason she built the Black Rose, the reason she trained Rell as a weapon, the reason she has spent centuries maintaining surveillance over the Immortal Bastion and its connections to the realm of death. She betrayed Mordekaiser. She helped seal him. She took his demonic servants, arcane and Tybalk, for her own use. She absorbed the secrets of the Immortal Bastion that she had claimed to neutralize. Every one of these acts was a specific offense against a being who the lore established could not be permanently killed, and who the community of Noxian politics whispered about in fear rather than in past tense. The twist that the lore embedded in their relationship, that Mordekaiser had calculated Leblanc's betrayal and accounted for it, converted her greatest tactical victory over him into a move he had already seen coming. She did not outwit the Iron Revenant. She performed the action he expected while he prepared the response she had not anticipated. Leblanc recognized this enough to spend centuries building a weapon specifically for his return, which was her honest acknowledgement that the day Mordekaiser came back, all of her illusions combined would not be sufficient. She trained someone else because she understood the confrontation required a different kind of power than she possessed. Xerath. He is pure arcane energy. The being that was once Xerath exists in a state where the visual distinction between Leblanc and her clones is meaningless. He does not aim at bodies. He saturates areas with magical energy at a scale that the target's location within that area determines the outcome. And LeBlanc's mirror image mechanic is specifically a visual confusion tool designed for opponents who are identifying a target. Xerath is not identifying a target in the way that most combatants do. He is projecting arcane force across a defined area at a magnitude that the arcane energy itself does not care which figure within the area is the real one. His ambition, to remake Runeterra under the rule of those with magical power, places him in direct opposition to a figure who has been operating the exact kind of a shadow institution that Xerath views as the old order requiring replacement. Leblanc's survival across millennia has been built on her ability to be in the room where power is exercised, influencing it from proximity. Xerath's vision of power does not include rooms where political influence is exercised from proximity. It includes the direct application of arcane force by those strong enough to apply it. The specific irony of their confrontation is that Leblanc, who has spent 1,000 years positioning herself as the power behind every throne, would encounter in Xerath a being who considers the throne irrelevant and the person standing near it even less relevant than that. Thresh. He does not kill. He collects. The Chain Warden's method of ending an existence is the one that Leblanc's specific defensive toolkit has no answer for. Thresh does not aim at the body, he aims at the soul, and he keeps it. The lantern that dangles from his instrument does not contain corpses. It contains the conscious, aware, eternal souls of every being. He is imprisoned within it, each one experiencing the torment of their confinement in full awareness without the mercy of the unconsciousness that death usually provides. Leblanc's mirror image creates a clone of her body. It does not create a clone of her soul. When Thresh's chain strikes the real Leblanc, the question of which physical form is genuine becomes irrelevant because the soul he is pulling from the body is not something that can be duplicated in advance. Her teleportation, her shape-shifting, her political intelligence, the centuries of manipulation that allowed her to fake her own death and disappear into Noxian history whenever the situation required it. None of these are properties of the soul. They are properties of the performance Leblanc has constructed around the soul. What Thresh takes is what is underneath the performance, and what he puts in the lantern stays there. The lore's most sophisticated manipulator, the champion who survived by making herself impossible to pin down, cannot clone her way out of the thing that is specifically interested in what is pinned down inside all of her performances. Thresh does not need to find the real Leblanc. He needs to find the real soul. Those are, for everyone, the same thing.